inception method involve a bath?
No. Yeah. Inception is just trance within trance. The difference is that we literally do it like the movie in Inception, where you're at one level, things are going on, and all of a sudden,
Do you do it with a portal, or I know you can do it, however, or hypnotizing within?
you can do both. But usually, trance within trance is formal hypnosis within formal hypnosis.
Yes.
Inception is more like a portal.
Are you going to run through anything at once?
We could.
One might seem sort of a very quick demo on sort of both ways.
All right. Actually, you saw me do a slight trance within trance when I induced somebody, and then I had them imagine doing the 4 magic bullets in trance.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's trance within trance. Yeah, it's trance within trance. Actually, that's actually one of the most powerful ways to do trance within trance. Because what you do is you put them in trance, then you have them imagine in their special room, and they're sitting in a chair, and next to them is their favorite hypnotist, which is them, telling them to close their own eyes, relax until they won't work. And it's a triple trance within trance induction right off the bat.
Yeah, you've answered my question totally there.
Yeah. It's actually just, to see it, it looks like it's really difficult, but it's actually not, which is why it's always fun to have the experience of something first, because then really all you have to do is remember what it was like for you and describe it. Fastest way to be effective at creating absorption, capturing, and leading the imagination is simply to remember what it was like for you and describe it. There's 3 levels to that: universal, personal, and other. You'll almost never go wrong describing or starting with a universal experience. And then if you have enough rapport or state control or perception or whatever you need to elicit their process or their experience of it, using their model is the most impactful way to do it. The easiest to get is your own. Because there may be an experience you want to work with that there is no universal analog, and you have no rapport or history with this person, so you don't know what their process is. Therefore, you have to rely on your hypnotic characteristics and the ability to effectively describe your own experience. And if you do effectively describe your own experience, then even though it's not their process, they'll still go into it.
And that's when you want to be vague.
Oh, always vague. But the problem is the problem that people have is we are process machines. And so if they're in a place that is not conducive to our outcome, we need to put them through a process that leads to the states and the energies and the behaviors where they produce the behaviors that lead to our outcome. And so many times we need to create that process. The fastest way to create it is to describe it, actually to name it and then describe it. As Mark likes to say, and I think I haven't found a better analog for it yet, when you name something, you bring it into existence. When you describe it, you bring it to life. There is no difference between a direct command and a powerful description or a skillful description. Okay? The more absorption you create through your description, the more narrow focus you generate, and we're off and running, right? It's recursive on one level and systematic on another. And there's millions of ways to do just that process.
No.
Now, over and over and over again. As they hurriedly scribble and think, what else should I ask? So what was this process like for you? Do you enjoy this? Does it get almost shamanic for you?
Yeah, actually, I completely related to the process. I mean, I've done that with different things and thought about other aspects that I could do with people with this process.
The nice thing is, and this goes back to something I was alluding to earlier, when I was talking a couple of days ago about hypnosis by example and the rule of 3. One of the things I do, if I'm going to run somebody through a process or I want to pre-frame them, I will find at least 3 examples of a real-world analog that I can describe and give them, and that primes them. That's a technical term. It primes them, it predisposes them to take the actions and go through the process I've just described without me consciously telling them to do it. Okay? That's where you need to really take into consideration the emotional and outcome aspects of the process. Example being when people describe real life experiences of hypnosis. They usually use, like Mark likes to use, you get home from dinner, you take off your coat, put your shoes away, next thing 5 minutes later you're rooting around in the refrigerator looking for something to eat. Who's driving the bus, right? That kind of thing. Who's in charge? That's a great metaphor. The only problem is, and it's accurate, the only problem is people who eat people generally associate eating with getting fat. The example that's being given is to demonstrate a loss of control and of not being able to control themselves, or not being conscious, so to speak. So even though it is a perfect example of hypnosis, the connotations of that, of engaging in that process leads to an undesirable outcome. It leads to them being out of control and at the mercy of something rather than allowing something to happen and having a wonderful result. Okay? So when I talk about, like for instance, the mirror neuron, the whole explanation of deep trance identification, I talked about rapport, which is something we know. I talked about what the ancients are saying. I talked about mirror neurons and what the scientists are saying. I quoted multiple sources. I gave multiple analogs that explained the same process. Right? So by the time you actually hit the exercise, you'd already done the process several times. Your unconscious mind already understood what was going to happen and how. So the minute I showed you the methodology, you just glommed onto it. Okay? That's all preloading. It's front-loading, but it's not overt. Okay? The rule of 3 tends to be, you can get away with 2, you can get away with 1, but if you really want to lock it in, we're hardwired for 3s. 3s, 5s, and 7s. Okay? 3s you'll find more often than anything else. Of all those prime numbers, the 3 is the one that comes up the most. Okay? How was this for you, JP?
Fantabulous.
Fantabulous?
Yep.
That's a technical term?
It's a technical term. It's a GP technical term.
Cool.
Oh, it's not one of your avatar technical terms?
Did you acquire some cool skills, some school perspectives, or what?
Some school skills. Yeah.
Some school skills, yeah. Right on. John?
Really cool experience. both sides of it.
It's awesome, isn't it?
Definitely.
Yeah. John?
Very cool.
Right on. Well, I've already talked to you. Eric, get your nose out of your phone.
Damn.
How was this for you?
Short and sweet.
Short and sweet?
Yeah.
You might want to take some Viagra or something for that.
It was a process that used to take me about hours to do,
Uh-huh.
and it was 10 minutes.
There you go.
Awesome.
That's efficiency. David?
That's a good one. I like it.
This is all new for you veteran renegades, huh? Super Jake.
Loved it.
Yeah?
It was great.
Yeah, cool. Saul?
Tried on some personas. Great.
What was that like? Did you notice radical differences in perception or feelings in the body from what you were normally experiencing?
Radical differences then, still some differences in perception.
Good. The secret to this, again, is you can spend as much time as you want or need to in each of them. You can move through the world as that person to whatever degree you're functional. Right? But always remember, you take what you need and let the rest stay where it belongs. Don't wind up, like Uncle Milty and Milton clones that used to follow him around in the wheelchairs. Because one day Milton got really fed up with it. He reaches over, he leans over to one of the guys and he goes, there can only be one Milton. I am paraphrasing terribly, but I reserve the right to totally mangle stories and get facts inaccurate because I have a lot of shit to keep track of. But I'm the first one to admit when I make a mistake and it's pointed out. I may not always do anything about it, but I will in fact admit it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to lunch. Now, if you remember what was on, do you remember what was on it?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's what I want you to do now. With your list in front of you, if you don't have it, regenerate it. I want you to go down that list and check off everything that you've already dealt with. Remember, the idea when we created the list was that whatever interventions we were working with, whether during regular class time or on the free time after every formal class, when you had a chance, you were to work on that stuff with somebody. The idea was to build up a body of experience doing actual session work and dealing with actual stuff for different people and learning how to tailor the techniques to the person. Okay? I gave you a silo. The silo starts with general negativity, specific negativity, primary intervention. We covered a bunch of potential primary interventions, and then we went further into the identity by design silo specifically. All of my silos begin with the first 3 steps. So they are universally applicable. Does that make sense? Okay. Then it's just 1 or 2 tweaks here and there, or whatever direction I feel, or in this case, you feel the client needs to go. You're never going to go wrong with direct drive for pretty much anything. The combination of mental movies, emotional intensity, and intense repetition will drive change home. Okay? It's not always the most appropriate in terms of, or the most specifically targeted, but it is the easiest, it is the most direct. It's the simplest. Okay? We went into the voice of authority. Voice of authority specifically targets self-esteem and self-worth issues. Negative voices from the past that have at their source are generally from authority figures that just got programmed in there. It will overwrite shit, okay? Then you go into disidentification. The moment we leave logical levels, the moment we remove ourselves from identifying with the issue, we gain control over it. So we can change it or simply delete it. That we move back in time to before any of that stuff happened. Why? Because your defense mechanisms, the things that hold your issues in place, are based on your defense mechanisms. If you precede the defense mechanism, or the formation thereof, everything else is easier to overwrite. Okay? And then you future pace it. You bring it back to now. All right? Now the intention behind that whole sequence is, again, to rewrite and rebuild your identity to get you all going in the same, all levels of you going in the same direction. Then you build in whatever attributes you want using your magic circle. Okay? And that can be traits, it can be skills, it can be beliefs, whatever it is. Does that make sense? It's still it is a hybrid of NLP style or structural based intervention and content intervention, with the emotional amplitude and drivers giving you the push for all of it. Make sense? That being said, how many people here have a bunch of stuff left on their list to work on? Raise your hands. Okay. How many of them are generative and how many of them are remedial? Meaning, how many are new things you want to acquire and how many things are things you want to get rid of? Huh?
Acquire.
You want to acquire? Okay. Generative?
I will acquire, but want to get rid of.
Okay. JP, what about you?
Majority of us are generative.
Generative? Okay. Those of you who have stuff to get rid of, are there any are they fears or are they emotional pains? What are they? Be vague. I don't need to know exactly what's going on.
Migraines.
Migraines? Okay. Eric? Oh, yours are generative, right? Your stuff. Who else had something?
Well, actually, I changed it to a positive.
Oh, so you dealt with it already, or?
Yeah, No, I phrase it as a positive.
Ah, okay. All right. Anybody have any fears or phobias?
I don't know what's the needles.
You want to get rid of it?
Sure.
Come on up here. Have a sit for a spell. I need a needle. Someone get me a needle. Go see if they have a needle out front.
I think they will tell me if they did.
All right. So, here's what I want you to do. He's like, oh shit. Don't worry, we're not bringing it in yet. Okay, it's still all the way out there. Okay, here's what I want you to do. This is an NLP technique. It's called the fast phobia cure. It is, in fact, best done fast. So here's what I want you to do. Do you remember that really good feeling you had? The one you love to have? In other words, if you were having to deal with needles, how would you like to feel?
What, they weren't even there.
Like they weren't even there? Okay. Stop for a moment, close your eyes, and remember what that would feel like. Matter of fact, do you remember that nurse who helped you?
Yes.
Do you remember what she said? Remember what you felt inside?
Yes.
As you remember what she said and how you felt it, I want you to notice where in your body you feel that feeling. That's right. Now I want you to take that feeling, I want you to notice where in your body you feel it. I want you to notice that there's a color associated with that feeling. Now I want you to take it out and look at it in both of your hands. Did it change color or stay the same?
Stayed the same.
Here's what I want you to do. I want you to notice. Is it moving?
No.
Okay, it's stationary?
Yes.
Here's what I want you to do. I want you to do whatever you need to do to that energy to double the intensity. That's right. Now double it again. Let me know if it changes color as it continues to double. Notice how with every breath you take and every beat of your heart, it doubles, and it doubles, and it doubles again. That's right. Perfect. Excellent. Good. Oh, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. That's right. And now, when it's so powerful that it's the only thing you can feel, just like that, I want you to slam it back into your chest. Notice how it gets stronger. Whoosh. All throughout your mind, all throughout your body, you're only feeling better and better and better. That's right. Perfect. Just like that. Now open your eyes. What'd you have for breakfast yesterday?
Burrito.
A burrito? Cool. Notice what happens when I touch your shoulder. Oh, that's right. Feels good, doesn't it? Twice as strong. Twice as strong again. There you go. Excellent. Close your eyes. What are you gonna have for breakfast tomorrow?
Eggs.
Eggs. Good feelings, huh?
Yes.
Good. Now, what time is it? Look at my watch. What time is it? Never mind. Now, what we've done here is we've created an anchor. Okay? We've created an anchor for resources. Whenever you do any kind of an NLP style intervention, it's always a good idea to have a series of states or resources anchored that you can trigger at specific and strategic moment. Now, some people don't. I like to do that for certain people. Okay? So here's what I want you to do. I want you to think back to that moment when you first encountered the needle, but I want you to do something very specific. I want you to think back to the first time you encountered that needle, or right before. I want you to reach out and touch it. Take out your dominant hand, show me where it is. Reach out with your hand and touch it. Good. Now, here's what I want you to do. All right, close your eyes. Drop your hand. Notice where in your body you feel it. All right. Now, here's what I want you to do. I want you to fast forward from 5 minutes before that, or 5 minutes before that. I want you to fast forward all the way to the very end of it, to the very end of that scene where you encountered the needle. And what I want you to do is, as you look at this, I want you to notice something. I want you to notice and draw a frame around it. Good. As you do that, I want you to make it black and white. And now what I want you to do is I want you to create a mental movie, but I want you to do it in a very specific way. I want you to run the movie backwards from the very end of it, where it is right here, all the way through to 5 minutes before it started. So when I say go, I just want you to start running it backwards. When you've finished the movie, I want you to raise that finger to let me know. Okay? Go. And run it backwards again, faster and faster, completely in reverse. And notice what happens every time you run it backwards and reverse. Notice how your feelings start to change. Faster, faster. And run it backwards again. That's right. Pretty cool, huh? Keep running that movie backwards faster and faster and faster until everything is different. And it's impossible to go back. Just like that. So that from now on, anytime you even think about it, and when you know it's done, go ahead and open your eyes. Now think about that needle. Notice what happened. Done? Cool. Anybody got a needle? No one? All right. We'll test it later. You might surprise yourself. It's not exactly a needle.
Amazing how the sensation is very similar though.
But notice the tip response.
Right.
Fast phobia cure. A la David. The result is really, really very simple. Okay? You create the picture or the event. I like to connect the feelings. Richard doesn't expressly connect the feelings. But I find the picture, and it's a movie. I turn it black and white. You run it backwards, over and over and over again as fast as you can until it's completely zeroed out. Now what I do also, and Richard does this too, is he'll play silly music while it's running backwards because it screws up the auditory. It screws up, it totally destabilizes the image or the representation. And he'll fire the resource anchor. Just like that. So not only is he running it in reverse, which is reversing the process he used to create the phobia, and now it's no longer a phobia because it's free. It's called freedom. Right? We're adding a different auditory component, and we're firing the resource that we want to have instead. Make sense? Yes?
He has an extra level of dissociation too, so he has to be watching yourself watching.
Yeah, I didn't go that far. But I wanted to just show the basics of the phobia cure. In reality, what they would do is they would have you sitting in a movie theater or screen and watching the image on the screen. Okay? That's their version of it. Make sense? So,
What James was saying, they also will have you, if the person's still reacting,
yeah.
dissociate again.
If we do change personal history, yeah, you'll have multiple places of dissociation where you watch yourself watching yourself watching yourself. Okay, and I didn't see the need to go that far with him because he wasn't. I mean, he had one but it wasn't as severe as some of the raging like spider phobias and claustrophobic things that we've seen. But if you do, in fact, the way that works, let's just pretend for a moment. Can you just pretend that you used to have a phobia and you were actually, right? So what's going to happen now is he's going to step out and he's going to imagine, use that, close your eyes. Imagine you're actually in a movie theater, right? And you can actually see what's playing on the screen, but also you can step outside of the you watching you on the screen over to this side and watch you watching you on the screen. Right? Every time you create one of these new perspectives, you create another layer of insulation between your perspective and the event. I didn't need to do that with him because he's pretty clean anyway. But all he would do from here now is just, again, run the event backwards, watch yourself watching the event. I love that show. And he would just run it backwards over and over and over again till it's zeroed out. And does he progressively get you back into association with it, or does he just leave you dissociated?
No, he gets you back in.
Yeah. So then from this position, just step back in, watch it in backwards again, and then actually step into it and run it backwards. And notice how much freer you are. Till it's impossible to feel any other way but this. Do it again. He's grooving now. Benny Hill will never be the same. All right? Good job. Big round of applause.
When did you pick up the initial good feeling you amplified, I think?
He had told me back in the early days that he had gone to get a shot from a nurse, and the nurse had actually hypnotized him. And he didn't even feel, he never felt the needle. And so I knew he had a resource for it. So all I did was have him re-access the state using NSER, right?
Yep.
Amplify it to the point where it was just unstoppable. I created an actual anchor, a physical anchor for it. So I had that on tap. I didn't have to say, now bring that feeling back. I could just touch this, and it was very clean.
No, I was just wondering, say I'm getting someone not to be afraid of flying.
Okay, the first thing you want to do is, well, let me ask you a question. What would you rather feel? Right? What would you rather feel when you fly? Find naturally occurring times in their life when they felt that. Use NSR to amplify and isolate the response in the body and generalize it so it's nice and strong. Right? And then create a physical trigger so that you don't have to say, activate that. You can just touch it and it'll fire at a strategic point during the intervention. Okay? The secret to the NLP is we don't care what, in this case I knew it was a needle phobia, but we don't have to know. We don't have to know what the phobia is. All we need to know is where is it. You don't have to know that, but it helps. I don't like to do anything without creating the somatic connection. The actual original NLP technique does not do that. Okay? Start the movie at the end, run it backwards. They tend to make, they make it black and white, right?
Yeah, you make it black and white, but the way I learned it is that you put the person into the situation so right before the incident takes place, because that amps it up, and then you take them past.
Yeah, I started there and then I went to the end of it.
Because that actually, gets up the anticipation. It takes.
Yeah, I don't use this one a lot. I don't need to. But it's very simple. That's why it's called the fast phobia cure. Right? But yeah, so starting him at the beginning.
Yeah, so you dissociate him first. So and you start him at the beginning, which amps it up for a certain part of the mind.
We do that in Change Personal History, which is
it's the same.
It's the same thing.
Yeah,
right?
and then you go to the end, run it backwards, at least 5 times, because that just seems to work better.
Well, again, 3, 5, 7.
Yeah. And then I always take them through it again with the new resource, just to check.
So, yeah, like that. Usually when I'm dealing with a phobia, I'm going to regress to cause. In other words, I'm going to amplify the fear, and then I'm going to jump back to the first scene, situation, or event, and I'm going to vent the emotional charge. I'm going to do informed parent or child, send the informed parent or child back, tell them what's going to happen, have them go through the event, and reorganize it. Okay? But for all intents and purposes, since this is a formula, start off with dissociation. Okay? You can use second or third person dissociation, right? And just according to James, you start 5 seconds before the event, or just before the event starts. Have them watch the event from a dissociated perspective through to the end. I don't like to do that. From the end, black and white?
Oh, no, you don't want to have them watch it through.
You don't have them watch it?
No, you take them to that afterwards. You take them to just before, and then you say, okay, now it's fast forwarded all the way to the end.
Oh, I did that. Okay, I misunderstood what you were saying.
No.
Okay, so yeah. I started in the back, then all right.
I only run them through at the end with the new resource, just to chat.
Oh, okay.
But,
Right.
I do it just to chat.
All right, so anyway, isolate the incidents in time. Bookmark it. Okay, 5 seconds before, fast forward to just after. Run it backwards. As you run it backwards over and over and over again, if you have a resource anchor, then's a good time to trip it. Okay? Sometimes Richard does that, sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he just gets you laughing about it.
Yeah, most of the time.
He just busts your balls about it until, letting you think about how stupid it is until the oxytocin release starts to overwrite it. Make sense? Until you know it's gone. Right? And then you bring them out, you test it. It usually takes, you saw how fast. I did it several times. It only took probably 15 minutes. And that was with explanation and everything else. Okay? Now, you can do this just as easily within the parameters of a hypnosis intervention. And then the conscious mind's completely gone. What happens a lot of times is Richard will demonstrate. One of the secrets is as he's explaining it, he's actually causing you to do it. As he's explaining to you what's going to happen, you can't make sense of his description without actually undergoing the process. So by the time you actually get it within the construct, the parameters of the hypnosis induction part, you've already done it 3 times. Okay? But what a lot of times he'll do is he'll simply explain it, which means he's putting you through it as he's explaining it. And then he'll run you through it without a trance, without a formal trance induction. And then maybe he'll drop you into a really deep trance and have you do it again. Okay? Each one can stand by itself. That make sense? I personally believe you could probably use this. He says it's strictly for phobias. I don't quite believe that. I think you can use this with any less than positive emotion. It's just that phobias are such an extreme example that most people are afraid to tackle them. I mean, they really are. If you ask how many psychologists have ever cured a phobia, it's dramatically low, right? So who else has a fear or a phobia? No fears? I could give you one. Right? So, you guys want to play with that? Practice it? Questions on it?
Well, what's the other option?
What's the other option? Well, it seems to me like you guys cleared out all your crap. Yes? No? Who has anything less than positive on their list they want to get rid of? Huh? Okay, tell me more about the migraine.
What do you want to know specifically? Do I know when exactly it happened?
So you know, so this is for you then. You want to you get migraines?
Yeah.
Okay.
They can be induced by like cigarette smoke. They can be induced by chemical sensitivity. It could be the time of month. It could be, all sorts of things. It actually has been a lot worse and I've gotten better. And like I started to have one a few days ago in class at the end. And then I can't seem to recover other than sleeping and just slowly filling up and pounding after a few hours will let me go to sleep. And then I'll wake up.
The pounding after a few hours will let you go to sleep. Come here. Let's take a 5-minute break, use the restroom. We could be here a while. Notice where it goes. Notice where it goes next. That's right. I want you to point to where you feel it in your body. Perfect. Now I want you to notice that there's a color associated with that feeling. As you look at it with your inner eyes, I want you to make note of what that color is. And I want you to reach in with both of your hands and take all of that energy out of your body and make sure it's all in your hands. Perfect. Now, did the color change or stay the same?
It changed. It's more like periwinkle blue now.
Okay, now what I want you to do is I want you to notice if it's moving. Is it moving? Mm-hmm. Good. I want you to double that movement so that it's 10 times faster than what it was just a minute ago. And keep doubling it. Keep doubling it. And let it begin to move down your arm and into this space right here, even as it continues to grow stronger and stronger here. So much so that every time I touch this, it gets 10 times stronger. Every time I touch it, it gets 10 times stronger. Every time I touch it, it gets 10 times stronger. Very good. And when you know it's unstoppable and it will completely, unstoppably, irrevocably overwrite anything it comes in contact with, slam it back into your chest. Perfect. Now, from that place inside, you can allow your hands to fall into your lap. What I want you to do is imagine you could float up out of your body. As you float up out of your body, I want you to imagine that you can enter a space inside. A space where you're almost like a movie theater screen. And as you enter this place, you notice that there's a big screen. And there's actually there's only one chair because it's your personal movie theater. It's your own personal IMAX. And there's these little dials and switches that let you control what happens on the screen. I want you to imagine that you can go and sit in that chair. Let me know when you're sitting. Now I want you, as you sit in that chair, I want you to begin to float up. Another part of you is going to begin to float up out of the body and float back almost to where the projection screen would be. So now as you look down, you can see yourself down in the theater, watching yourself on the movie theater screen. And in a moment, I want the self in the chair to just press that button and watch the scene that is most important to this event. Watch it play and notice how much further removed from the feelings you are. Good. Now, stop. Fast forward to the end. Good. Now what I want you to do is I want you to take this feeling and I want you to float all the way back to 10 minutes before that event ever happened. And from that place in the projection booth, what I want you to do is begin to run that movie backwards. Or actually, don't run it back. Well, turn it black and white. Turn the volume all the way down. And what I want you to do is, from the you of now, with all your information, all of the feelings you want to have, I want you to move through that event and notice how the scenes change and how everything begins to shift from that place. And just cycle through it over and over again until everything changes. Perfect. And perfect. Good. And when you know you've got it, when you know everything's shifted, see your entire line of time change. See See your entire history change. The lessons you derive from that event are different because you're different now. Just cycle through it over and over. Perfect. Just like that. Let those feelings grow stronger and stronger. That's right. Notice how your body's changing. That's it. Perfect. And when you know you've got it, just twink that finger. Let me know. Excellent. Now, that part of you that's in the projection booth can float down into the body and watch the same experience and notice how much better it gets as you get closer to the experience. Notice how much better it gets. Flooded with those feelings, flooded with those wonderful sensations. Until you can actually step into the movie, run through it, and notice how much better it is for you. Because you've learned. You understand. You're different now. And then when you know you've got it, just tweak that finger. Let me know. Good. Now step out of that picture. Because unless you need to be in it, it's okay to leave it where it was. Notice how it's different. Notice how the future has changed for you again already. So that now and in the future, anything that in the past might have triggered that old response, you're different now. It's all you for the better. Right? As you look back from now to the past, notice how your life is different. Notice the lessons you've learned and the experiences you've acquired have only made you better. That's right. Let the truth of that sink in. Okay? And when you know you've got it, allow your eyes to open and look at your whole new world. Look how much better life is. Cool. You're very good. You're welcome. Give her a big round of applause. So what we did here was a variant of changed personal history. The way changed personal history works is, once again, you create a resource. A lot of Silva Mind, a lot of NLP style interventions like to use a movie theater metaphor. I love it personally. I use it. First regression technique I ever learned was called the hall of regression, which is basically a big row of doors where your unconscious mind takes you to the door most relevant to the event you're dealing with. And when you walk in, as soon as you walk in, it's basically a movie screen, movie theater. It's a great metaphor. If you do any kind of editing or computer editing, works very, very well. What we do here, though, is we create 3 levels of dissociation. Okay? You have the screen, you have the perspective of watching the screen, and then you have the projection booth metaphor. Right? Now, the cool thing about dissociation is you can keep adding layers of dissociation until you get something that they can comfortably manage. As they become better able to deal with it, I like to bring them back in. Reintegrate them. You don't want to leave them out in the ether. Okay? So as from here, we ran the image with the new feeling. Right? Over and over again until it rewrites the image. You start out with the feeling they want to have instead, the information that they need to make that happen, and cycle forward. Okay? Now notice something. I never asked what was going on. I never asked who the players were. I don't need to know. This preserves privacy, anonymity, and it lets her make it as vivid and compelling as she wants it to be. Okay, I asked a few things just to make sure that I wasn't missing the boat somewhere. What was going on in your life? And I saw from her nonverbals right away I was where I needed to be for right now. Okay? Got the anchor, run it from from 3 levels of dissociation. When I see she shifted, when she signals me she shifted enough, I reintegrate her back into the second position, run through it, make sure she's got it. Then I had her step into the movie. Why might I have done that? Exactly. That's about as associated as it gets. If she's maintaining state, I'll bring her back out now because it was originally on the screen to begin with, right? If she wants to go back, she can. She knows how to do that now. But that's good enough. Does that make sense? When she knows she's got it, she comes out of it. Yes?
When you have the scene going, how did you choose? Was the scene the most recent time she felt the feeling? First time she felt the feeling?
I assumed it was the first time because that's what I
Okay.
wanted. That's what I wanted because,
That's what you're aiming for.
yeah.
Okay.
When did this first become a problem? And so I assumed she went back to that time. If I'm not sure, I'm going to ask. Right? That would be considered from a regression standpoint. That would be considered a directed regression. We're telling her to go directly to a specific place. Does that make sense?
I was surprised that what came up was my horse hanging on top of me, which I just didn't think that it had.
That's the unconscious mind. The unconscious mind knows where it started.
Yeah.
Just because there's other stuff going on that we were consciously paying attention to may have nothing to do with it. They say correlation is not causation. There's only two entities in the universe that know where the problem started. God and your unconscious mind. And God sometimes takes our calls and sometimes we get the busy signal. But the unconscious mind is always available. So you were surprised where you ended up.
Yeah, I mean, it made sense. Like, well, yeah, that was a very traumatic thing with him coming in and talking to me, but it just never registered that it would have done something in my head to start to cause.
Ask any chiropractor.
Well, but because it was a chain reaction down the road, so it didn't show up right away. It must have been connected. Too much was going on. You know, to realize it was something.
Exactly. We never know consciously. We may think we know. We may be close. But we never actually know until we talk to the boss, as I like to call it. The one who was actually paying attention when the shit happened. Okay? But we had the feeling you want instead, that you have now, and we rewrote the whole experience because you were coming at it from a different perspective. You were bringing a new set of resources through the event. Okay? So you're going to have a different response from now on. Okay? You may discover that what you used to think triggered yours was going to be a trigger is no longer relevant. Okay? And if you do get episodes, spin it. I've taken intense migraines away over the phone just by spinning it. Taking it out, looking at it, spinning it, putting it back. Intense back pain, tachycardia, fluid in the pericardium. I've reversed it through a translator in Chinese. Okay? And I couldn't see the person. Okay? Because they were in China and I was here. They just have to follow the instructions. Okay? I'm not, the power of some of this stuff is just, you don't think about it. Because we deal with certain things and they seem like simple issues, but things like if you can get them to pay attention and follow the instructions, you can get results. The secret is going to be getting their attention and getting them to be able to comply. Make sense? Okay. So that's basically change personal history, a la David. That's pretty close to Richard's formula, right?
Pretty much. I mean, I kind
That's what they did in Orlando.
I kind of blend that with phobia cure.
Yeah, they're very, very similar. If I'd have just had her run the event backwards over and over again, we pretty much would have had the phobia cured. Right? But now think about it. I didn't formally induce anything. I made sure the anchors were very, very strong. That's the one thing of all the things I would recommend. If you're going to have a resource state, make it unstoppable. And that's where I think neurosomatic energetic repatterning, the spinning technique, pointing, locating it, that's where I think in terms of creating extraordinarily powerful anchors, I don't think there's anything more powerful you could use. Because it's got all the channels operating. Does that make sense? Who else has got something? Or you want to just grab your lists and go to town on each other? Huh? Go to town. We had this time together just to have a laugh or sing a song. Seems we just got started, and before you know it, comes the time we have to say so long. Anybody remembers the Carol Burnett show? Get the show. It's just a variety show. Tim Conway, Harvey Korman, Lyle Wagner, Vicki Lawrence. Not that I watched it a lot. Woman was a brilliant, still is. I think she's still alive.
She still performs every now and then.
Yeah, she is wonderful. Very funny lady. Very funny. Probably I don't know. I don't know who would be funnier in terms of my favorite redhead, her or Lucille Ball.
Lucille Ball was funnier. Carol Burnett was more, probably more versatile.
Versatile, yeah. Yeah, pretty much. Lucy only did one character, and
it was her.
Yeah, it was her. You know.
But she did it so well.
Oh yeah. Oh, Lucille Ball was amazing, as well. But Carol Burnett really, I really enjoyed her stuff. Still do. But we're coming into the home stretch, so to speak. So let's go around real quick. How'd you do? Great. I notice as we get deeper and deeper into the training, the response is great. I'm okay. Yeah, okay. David.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. I was on in and out, during the process.
How many people have stuff left on their list? Yeah, did you add stuff, or did you just not get to it?
Slightly separate. We'll work on it tomorrow.
Okay. All right. Saul.
We did more of an integration session, so
Right on.
that worked real good for me.
Very cool.
For you.
It's great.
Super John.
It was fun. I mean, I consider what I did with Seth to be progress as well as a failure. I learned failure.
You learn, yeah.
But it worked.
That's the point.
We still went through the process, which
Yeah.
was great.
You're gonna. The best thing that can happen is you try something and something else happens, and you learn to adapt. And we call it hypnosis in free fall, because once you got the hood up, you don't know what's in there. It's a mistake to think you do. The cool thing is no matter what's in there, you got a tool somewhere that'll fix it. You just got to find it. Sometimes it's duct tape and spit, but you know what? There's a reason why everybody has a roll of duct tape in their freaking toolbox.
I just need another person to add to my list.
There you go. MacGyver. There you go. I like it. I like it. Very cool.
I had fun utilizing different tools.
Tools? Very cool. Did you find that, depending on what you needed to do, that you actually had something that would work with it? Cool. Seth?
He wanted ideal body size and shape,
Mm-hmm.
and I did direct drive, and I threw in a few other things.
Mm-hmm.
That, first, based on, you're saying something about the unconscious is a 9-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
So I talked to the unconscious as a 9-year-old.
Perfect. Perfect. It's very hard to make a mistake when you do it that way, because you tend to keep your sentences simple, gentle, but certain, and instructional. Right?
And also, a trick I learned elsewhere about giving it praise for what it's done, even if it's the wrong thing.
Okay.
Just,
Remember?
you've kept
It's a reward-seeking mechanism.
You've kept him at this size, and that's been good, but now things have changed, and his
Perfect.
ideal size and shape have changed,
Mhm.
so you should bring him to the new one.
Right on. Did you do any mental movies or anything like that?
Mostly image work.
Okay.
I have a really strong image of where I want to be. So.
Okay. Cool.
He has a much stronger one than he did a few
Yeah,
hours ago.
very cool. All right, great. Anything I missed? Anything you wanted to get out of this week that I didn't deliver or have yet to deliver? Not going to get any weird hate mail a week from now? Remember, the processes that you've initiated this week are still continuing. They're still going on. You are still changing. Okay? And yes, there is more. But what you've got is already more than enough for most of it. We will be doing another Renegade. It will focus on regression. It will focus on timeline and temporal effects. We'll focus on the proprioceptive grid and understanding how to use proxemics and other stuff. There will also be a more advanced set of trainings coming up. The natural transition point from the mundane, you could call what we do mundane, into the realm of human potentials, into the realm of energetics, hermetics, remote influence, and other things, is the magic circle. When you've reached that point, you're moving into personal alchemy and that stuff. So, end of January, beginning of February, we will be doing that. It will probably be a 3-day event. It will begin with energetics, introductions to energy healing, energy psychology. We'll be focusing on techniques for cleaning, cleansing, understanding, and if we have time, we'll start going into mudra work or other types of energetic self-development. Maybe some remote viewing or remote influencing stuff, depending on how deep into the energetic side of things we get. We may do it at that training, but it is on the roster. Is there anything, since I'm assuming most of you have an interest in that field, would that be correct? Okay. For those of you who don't know, if you haven't read my resume, I've been a Reiki master since the early 90s. I'm a certified pranic healer and pranic psychotherapist. I'm an advanced DNA theta healer. I've been studying Huna, Kabbalah, and Hermetics for over 10 years. I know a little bit. Plus I taught remote viewing for a while. And the martial arts that I deal with specifically deal with how to use energy in combat in a very practical way. So I bring something to the table in this work that many people don't. I don't come at it from a new age white light perspective, although you'll start to see how all that stuff starts to factor in a practical way. Okay? We will never lose or never negate everything we've learned in terms of trance work, in terms of the technique, because what you're going to realize as we get into that stuff is that all the neuro-linguistic things, all of the self-work, you have to have it. You have to have it, or bad things can happen. Okay? And when I say bad, I don't necessarily mean you're going to explode or become psychotic or anything. Although certain qigong styles, that effect does happen. They're close. Certain qigong styles. What are we looking? Oh, we're looking for Eric?
Yes.
I gotta edit that out.
Spinal tap.
But the truth, like some of the Wing Chun style, or not Wing Chun, White Crane styles, Southern White Crane. There's qigong practices that they do that psychologically unhinge the practitioners. They get nuts. They're vicious, fierce fighters. You can't hurt them, but they're nuts. Okay, so our goal, and STEM is really kind of the most user-friendly martial art, energetic. It's where everything interfaces. It's the most useful for what we do. There will be breathing practices. There will be self-development work, okay, that we go into. And again, if it's not for you, that's cool. There will be plenty of other more this-world application stuff that is in the pipeline and things like that. But one of the things that happens is the longer you work in these fields, the more you explore human potentials, the more you start to realize that these abilities that we kind of poo-poo or say there's no scientific evidence for it, you're just going to start running into them. Okay? The fact that we can explain them from a physiological standpoint doesn't make them any less magical, it just makes them explainable. The human body, the human mind, and all of its various levels is vast in what it's capable of. And we haven't touched even the remotest, tiniest. I haven't even come to this much of it. And I move through the world, and people just kind of like, where are you from? What planet are you from? You know? And I start to wonder sometimes, too. Actually, that's one of the reasons I teach. Because if I can transfer it to people and they can do it, then I know I'm not crazy. See, if only one guru can do it, it's either a gimmick or genetics. Not necessarily real, right? Not real in the sense that it's attainable, right? But if I can take it and I can teach you to do it, and you can, however, at whatever level, and you just get better at it, then we know we're onto something together. Does that make sense? Okay. So that's kind of coming up. Look for me to start making more announcements and more posts about that. I'll probably start putting something out in and around the end of the month. I'll get it in the calendar, and I'll start. I was downloaded the outline for it back in June or July. I refused. I refused to put it into action, okay, because I just wasn't sure if I wanted to go there for personal reasons. But it seems to me, the longer I teach this stuff, that's you guys are here for a reason. You know, I'm going to wax metaphysical for a brief moment. You're here for a reason. And if you keep coming back, then either I'm giving you really good drugs when you're not looking, or there's something in you that senses this is where you need to be for however long you're here. So, to that effect, let's jump down this rabbit hole together and see where it goes. Sit back, put your feet flat on the floor. Any last words? John's already way ahead of me. I'm the fucking hypnotist, motherfucker.
It's all self-hypnosis.
One more thought. It's kind of metaphysical and not. Remember the law of correspondence? Remember I said things that are the same are connected at some level, or things that are connected at some level have a resonance? All centers are connected. Something to think about as you close your eyes and go deeply into trance. Take a deep breath in and let that breath out with a sigh. And as you do, let all of the trances you've experienced this week begin to come flooding back, merging, synergizing, amplifying one another. As you find yourself going deeper than you've ever gone before, maybe even as you continue to go deeper and deeper in than you've ever gone before. You can let my words guide you on an inner journey. And as you continue to go in, you may notice yourself actually freeing yourself from the physical body and allowing yourself to float up and out of the body, out of your emotional body, out of your physical and mental bodies. Because now we know, do we not, that you are far more than any body that you possess. You are far more than the clothes on your back, even though you have many. You are far more than your future. You're far more than your past and your memories. You are something so much more. So special. And in your center, you are truly free. Free to go and do whatever it is you truly want to. By your standards, by your definitions. To take on any identity, any persona, any experience. To try it on, experience it fully. And decide, as an enlightened being, as a self-aware being, whether to keep it, let it go, or just integrate the useful parts for all the right reasons. And so as you continue to go deeper inside, as you continue to rise and move back through time, back through all the memories of this week, back through all the memories prior, back over and above through all of your memories from the very beginning of time, back to that special place inside, that womb, the womb of eternity. And from within that place, you can hear a very special voice telling you, it only gets better. You're on your way. You have permission to explore, to change, to enjoy the process of becoming all you're capable of being for your reasons, because they're the right ones. And as this voice continues to tell you how good life is going to get, it also tells you that there will be ups and downs. There will be unexpected twists and turns of fate. And you're going to be amazed at how quickly, how naturally you adapt, extrapolate, extract all the things you need to know, and let the rest go. Because you've learned about your mind. You've learned about your body. You've learned so many things in a very short time, many of which are still in process, still in the stages of becoming. And so as you let all of the learnings seep in that you've acquired this week, learnings you're aware of, learnings you're yet to become aware of, as you let that knowledge and those skills and those abilities become manifest in this place, in this non-time, that place outside of time, the knowledge becomes timeless, eternal, an eternal part of who you are, who you will be, and beyond. And taking all of this knowledge and all of this wisdom with you, I want you to begin to move forward through your timeline. Seeing how yet again your timeline and your personal experience of that time and those memories begin to shift for all the right reasons, bringing with you a brand new understanding, a brand new awareness of the power and the skill and the ability to get the life you want, the way you want it. To help people and yourself, especially yourself, to become who you truly want to be. To give yourself the freedom to play, to move through the world with a curiosity and, even more importantly, a sense of personal victory, of triumph from the inside out, that radiates through every level of your body and mind, that informs and inspires, energizes you. And life only gets better. As you move through those memories from conception to birth to childhood, the change is rippling endlessly, unstoppably through. And then as you move to that part of this week where you began your training, your evolution to the next level of what you're truly capable of becoming. And you begin to cycle from the beginning of the week through day 1 and day 2, 3, 4, 5, over and over again, cementing in, making permanent, burning into you, emblazing on your neurology and on every level of your body and mind exactly how to do all of the things you've been exposed to, that you've practiced, to model them so fully and so completely that any time, anywhere, no matter where you go, you realize that you truly are a master. And that it only gets better. And I want you to begin now to use the amazing power of your body and your mind to cycle through all of this process over and over and over again. See yourself in every situation and circumstance, using your skills, using your powers, using your abilities to make your world and the world at large a much, much better place. To fulfill your personal missions here. The ones you're aware of, the ones you're yet to become aware of. All guiding you. All fulfilling you at the deepest level and inspiring you to go forward. Because life is one adventure after another. Cycle through it over and over and over again. And when you know you've got it, you know this is what you were meant to do and who you were meant to be, and you have the tools and the power, the skills, and it only gets better. Allow yourself to return to this place we call reality, bringing with you the power, the skill, and the ability to create, modify, and change reality. Open your eyes and see the world as a master hypnotist, and recognize the change. Congratulations. You're all certified.